Several new developments in South suburban Dalton today. First, the state comptroller has suspended some payments to the village because it has failed to follow the law by providing financial reports.
You could feel the anger tonight at a Board of Trustees meeting in Thornton Township. The board and citizens looking for accountability to their finances while the town...
Here's a story that's bound to leave you speechless. Tiffany Henyard, the mayor of Dalton, Illinois, is once again making waves, and not for the reasons you'd expect from someone in public service. You'd assume that someone earning a six-figure salary, reportedly around $300,000 in a year, would have no trouble covering basic expenses like rent, right? Well, here's where things get baffling. Recent reports reveal that Henyard is facing an eviction notice. Yes, you heard that right. She's reportedly months behind on rent. It's hard to wrap your head around, isn't it? With that level of income, this shouldn't even be a concern, but as the saying goes, there's always more to the story, and this one is getting downright complicated.
We knew it was going to be a little messy, but it's just something we felt important that had to be done, that should be done. So, but like I said, you have just some...
Let's break it down. According to reports, Henyard is 3 months behind on her rent. And no, we're not talking about some extravagant mansion-level payments. The rent is reportedly only about $1,100 and per month. Yes, you heard that right. Someone pulling in a salary most people can only dream of is struggling to cover what many would consider a modest expense naturally. This has people scratching their heads. But here's where it gets even more interesting. Henyard's name isn't the only one on the lease. Camel Woods, one of her associates, is also listed on the property. So what's really going on here? Could this be some kind of subletting arrangement? Or is there a bigger story unfolding behind the scenes?
Motion to terminate, Chief.
If that wasn't enough to stir the pot, things only get more puzzling. The eviction notice was officially filed on September 18th, giving Henyard and her associate, Woods, just 5 days to vacate the property. The amount owed? Around $3,350, and in back rent. Henyard's lawyer was quick to jump in, claiming the entire situation is based on false pretenses. But that only sparks more questions, doesn't it? What exactly does false pretenses mean here? Are they suggesting Henyard never signed the lease? Or is it that the rent was actually paid, and this is all one giant misunderstanding? You can see how this adds even more fuel to the fire. So where's the real disconnect?
Finding of an investigation of village finances and the spending habits of beleaguered Mayor Tiffany.
For some, this eviction saga is just another chapter in Tiffany Henyard's long list of controversies. This isn't the first time her name has made headlines for all the wrong reasons. In fact, many are seeing this as just the latest example of her questionable financial decisions. Let's not forget that Henyard has already faced accusations of using taxpayer money for personal luxuries. We're talking lavish trips to places like Las Vegas, renting luxury vehicles, and even throwing extravagant street parties. These aren't small expenses either. Reports suggest the costs could be in the tens of thousands, if not more. Just last month, she hosted a large street party in her town, further solidifying her reputation for being overly generous with public funds.
I handle anything as relates to with credit cards. As you heard me speak today in my board meeting about, I do not handle that.
Some of those charges are for you, though.
So, could this eviction be part of a larger issue with how Henyard handles money? It certainly seems that way. You don't just forget to pay rent for 3 months, especially when you're managing public funds. If she's falling behind on something as basic as rent, what else could be going on behind the scenes? Is this a sign that Henyard is financially spiraling out of control, or is there a more calculated reason behind the missed payments? Some speculate it could be a deliberate move. Could Henyard be positioning herself to say, if I were really stealing all this money, as people claim, why can't I even afford my rent? It's a stretch, but when someone has a track record like hers, anything seems possible.
Guilty of all 9 counts. I believe he's cooperating. And if you cooperate, you have to admit your...
Speaking of records, Henyard's legal history is a whole other matter. Public court documents show she's no stranger to legal trouble. In fact, there are dozens of lawsuits either pending against her or recently resolved, and they're not all connected to her role as mayor. Some of these lawsuits date back as far as 2012, involving issues like bank loans and personal debts. This paints the picture of someone who has been dealing with financial and legal struggles for years. And now, the latest addition to this long list? Her current eviction case.
The government always does it, is to go and investigate people around her. And that's what they're.
What makes this situation even more intriguing are the rumors that Henyard might not even be living at the property she's being evicted from. Some insiders have speculated that the house in question could be what's known as a trap house, and no, not in the musical sense. There are whispers that the property might be tied to some form of illegal activity, especially considering Henyard and Woods have reportedly refused to let the property owner conduct inspections. There's likely a clause in the lease granting the owner the right to inspect the premises, yet Henyard and Woods have blocked it. So why the secrecy? It only adds fuel to the suspicions swirling around this entire situation.
Fired her chief of police late last year without any approval from the village board. So now Robert Collins has filed a lawsuit.
It's not just about failing to pay rent. Henyard's financial mismanagement seems to be creating problems far beyond her personal life. There are claims that public grants, including funds designated for youth projects, have been mishandled under her administration. A Freedom of Information Act request reportedly uncovered some troubling accounting practices within a grant project managed by K.L. Woods. Payments were made to individuals and entities, many of which raise serious questions. For example, Anthony Butler allegedly received over $66,000 and for unclear reasons. This is just one instance among many, and these irregularities are causing major concern. It suggests that Henyard's financial troubles stretch far beyond missed rent payments.
Appointment. That's what the trustees I talked to are calling this. They say the news took them by surprise, and now they're talking to legal counsel to figure out their next.
Let's revisit Henyard's reaction to all of this. Through her lawyer, she's claimed that it's all part of a smear campaign orchestrated by her enemies. According to her, she's being attacked by what she calls a corrupt board of trustees that's trying to undermine her. She's even gone as far as labeling their actions as attempts to subvert the will of the people. But when you're facing an investigation into financial mismanagement and a growing list of accusations, it's hard to maintain the victim narrative. Public sentiment is certainly not on her side, and that's putting it mildly. Residents of Dalton are becoming increasingly vocal about their frustrations with Henyard. Some have even started calling her America's worst mayor. With everything that's coming to light, it's easy to see why.
It's not paid by them.
Did you fly first class to Las Vegas?
Any other?
It's not just the rent or grant issues that have people talking. Henyard is also under a federal investigation for her financial expenditures, adding an entirely new layer of scandal. The FBI is reportedly looking into her use of taxpayer funds for personal gain, including the cost of her security detail, which has drained the town's budget with hundreds of thousands of dollars in police overtime. Allegedly, some of this security spending occurred while Henyard was out of town, even for personal business, which only raises more questions about her priorities and how she's managing public resources. When you're already under scrutiny for questionable spending, flying first class on the taxpayer's dime certainly doesn't do you any favors.
Address some things as the supervisor. There will be no comments. There will be anything. It'll just be me addressing you guys to tell you what's.
It's no surprise that residents of Dalton are calling for Henyard's resignation, but as with many scandals, Henyard isn't stepping down without a fight. She's insisted on staying the course, claiming she's being unfairly targeted simply because she's a woman in power. According to Henyard, it's all part of a boys' club that doesn't want to see a woman succeed. Whether or not that claim holds any weight remains unclear, but the facts are undeniable. She's under investigation, facing eviction, and her financial dealings remain questionable at best.
Shameful. Y'all are a disgrace.
We're watching the fall of this administration.
What makes this situation even more complicated is the public's reaction. If you browse through the comments on social media or YouTube videos covering the story, you'll see a lot of frustration and disbelief. One commenter summed it up saying, "She don't pay bills period unless taxpayers pay." It's hard to argue with that, especially given the numerous reports of her using public funds for personal expenses. Another commenter suggested maybe she's doing all this to make it seem like she hasn't been stealing money. I can almost hear her now. While y'all out here accusing me of stealing money, why don't I have enough to pay my rent? It's a stretch, but this is just how reckless I believe she is. That's a bold statement, but it reflects just how much public trust in Henyard has eroded. At this point, people are willing to believe almost anything about her, and that's never a good sign for any politician.
Late last year without any approval from the village board. So now Robert Collins has filed.
So what comes next? That's the big question. With her eviction court date set for October 22nd, all eyes are on Henyard to see how this will unfold. Will she manage to dig herself out of this mess, or will this mark the end of her political career? Only time will tell, but one thing is certain: this story isn't going away anytime soon. Each new development only adds another layer to the already complicated web of allegations and controversies surrounding her. And it doesn't stop with eviction or public funds. Persistent rumors about her involvement in even more serious matters continue to surface. Allegations of corruption keep coming to light, and with the FBI now involved, it's hard to imagine this won't lead to something much bigger. Some are already predicting more lawsuits and investigations on the horizon, especially if more details emerge about the mismanagement of public grants. If those funds were misused, Henyard could be facing legal consequences far beyond just eviction. The question remains: how did someone elected to lead her town end up tangled in so many scandals? Is it simply a matter of poor judgment, or is there something more sinister at play? At the end of the day, it's hard to say, but one thing is clear: the residents of Dalton deserve answers. They deserve to know where their money is going and why their mayor can't seem to get her finances under control. And that leads to the big question on everyone's mind: will Tiffany Henyard be able to recover from this, or is this the beginning of the end for her political career? What do you think? Let us know in the comments below. And don't forget to like and subscribe for more updates on this ongoing story.